EA Interviews, episode 98.
Inspiration, transformation, success stories, and the imperfect action round. 7 days a week. Join Mario Ficini for today's Expert Authority Effect interview.
Have you ever wanted to write a book? Have you ever wanted to do public speaking? Maybe you wanted to build a successful company. How about multiple successful companies? How about this? Have you ever wanted to invent something? I am super excited to have Stephen Sadler here today because he has done all of those and above, and I can't wait for him to jump in, and he's going to be sharing some mindset with you on how he's achieved this. And I'm going to bring up one specific story. Remind me to talk about, well, I can't say the name, but it involves a well-known mouse and the land of make-believe. But there's something that stands out, and he's just a phenomenal guy, and I can't wait to bring him up right after we thank our sponsor. Why every business needs a book, including yours. Would you like to save 5+ hours with every prospect, generate more leads and profit in your business now? Visit businessbookchecklist.com and learn how you can implement this in your business today. Stephen Sadler, everyone. How you doing, Steve?
I'm good. How you doing, Mario?
I am feeling great. I'm excited to have you here. You've been such an inspiration since we met in 2012 when we were both speaking at that same event. And I just want to jump in because you've been doing this for so long. And like I was saying on the intro, you've got books, you do public speaking, you do all kinds of great stuff. But what got you into building softwares and inventing things?
Well, it's obviously it's a long story. It's not.
We got some time.
Yeah, there's no short answer to it. But I grew up in Ontario. I actually started as a tool and die maker many, many years ago. So how I transpired from that over to creating things, is a very, very interesting path. But obviously it went through working in the automotive industry for a lot of years. I got into tech by programming robots and working on CAD systems. And at the time, I really didn't have my engineering degree. So I ended up going back to school, getting engineering. And in the process of doing that, I always liked playing with Lego when I was a kid, and I always liked inventing stuff. And I thought to myself, you know what? Instead of just playing around with this, why don't you actually come up with some ideas? So very early in the inventive path that I was taking, created this small product called the Pack Support. And basically what it was just like a little seat cushion that attached to a knapsack. And it allowed you to, if you're in school, university, to slide the knapsack over the back of a chair, and you'd have a nice seat cushion and back support to sit on. And that was kind of like the way in, I should say, to how my brain started to get wired, because I do believe that we wire our own brains. We have the ability to do that. And they are definitely done by the paths and the activities that we decide to go down. We decide to go down. So after that, that was it. After that, even though I had a job and I was making good money, I was still bit by this ability to want to create.
Where did it lead to when you gave into it? Because I know that feeling. I also loved Legos, and I've always liked creating things. But some people look at it as just toys, and you built a whole business around it.
Yeah, I mean, what I was working at Veltri, and what the company I was working for was called Veltri Metal Products. And we basically did a lot of metal components, the underbody for like the Intrepid and the Concorde, a lot of the Chrysler vehicles at the time. And I did get a creative feel from that kind of engineering work, but it still wasn't mine. It was someone else's. And I think that we are definitely, I'll say it, we're built in God's image. We're built with the ability to want to create. And a lot of people say to me, it's like, what is your purpose? It's the same purpose that everybody's purpose is. Our purpose is to create and build. It's not to destroy. It's exactly what that is. It's very, very simple. And I think once we all start to achieve that, understand what it is that we are supposed to build and create, that's when our lives start to line up a lot better than what they are. And this is a crazy world we live in. And I see a lot of destruction. I don't see a lot of creation in a lot of cases, even though it's there. I mean, of course. So
what was the biggest thing you noticed when you started giving into that and you started your first company? I'll let you expand on that. But what led you to that?
Well, actually, it's a sad story because I had worked my way up the corporate ladder, and I was director of engineering of a fairly large corporation, and making above $200,000 a year. And I quit. And the reason I quit is because I got a really bad phone call one day from one of my sisters, and one of my nephews had committed suicide. And
sorry to hear that.
And he was 34 years old. He wasn't a kid. He was right in the prime. And I thought to myself, if I'm going to live my life, I'm going to try and live my life and do things that I want to do, not just things that are driven by money. And so I went back in. Actually, right at that moment, I actually called the president of the company. I said, look, I've had enough. I've worked for you for over 10 years. I said, I really love you. I think you're a great guy. I said, but I need to go and do something else. I need to move on. And that's why I quit. And my wife backed me all the way. And obviously, I can't say it's been a simple ride, because anyone that owns a business knows it's extremely difficult to run a business. And I've been doing it for almost 19 years now. But that's, I wouldn't take any of the hardships that I've had. I wouldn't take them back. I'm just so, blessed to have gone through those experiences and be where I am. So.
What brought on the inspiration for starting your first product? I know you said your background was with CAD, but
Correct.
Why don't you tell Expert Authority World about all the stuff you've made is cool, but the first one you made with the learning system.
Yeah, so the first application was called Ignite, or Skate Ignite. And Skate was the name of the corporation and still is today. And it stands for Simulated Computer Assisted Teaching Environment. And what we were doing was actually taking CAD information, or I should say CAD subject matter from engineers, and converting that into animated courses that a designer and engineer could actually take step by step interactively and learn how to use that CAD system. And CATIA was the name of the CAD system primarily that we were teaching. We ended up training tens of thousands of people all online using that methodology. That turned into an actual piece of software called Skate Ignite, which was a desktop application that I sold to General Motors, Chrysler, Ford, you name it. There's thousands of those licenses worldwide, which was used for creating all kinds of different e-learning. And in that process, we actually even patented the posting and sharing of knowledge, which was, if you look at it, that's pre-Facebook, pre-Twitter, pre-Instagram. And we still have that patent to this day.
That is such a cool story. What did you do with it after that? What did you do when you saw what social media was coming up? Because I know you said you started 19 years ago in the early 2000s.
Well, it was interesting because around when 2008 hit, one of the first things that gets sliced from the budget at most corporations is training. And we were obviously stuck in the training space. So I had to make a decision. It's like, well, really not a decision, but people call it a pivot now, right? But I had to make a pivot on our technology and choose another direction to use what we have built, but in a different market. And at that time, I met a fellow that had been in entertainment for a lot of years. And he started looking at some of the application. He said, I wonder if these could be used, in Hollywood. And I said, I don't know. Never been there. He goes, you want to go? I said, absolutely. So off we went to Los Angeles, where I met a really, really creative individual that actually has changed my life in a lot of different ways. And that's Frank Zappa's son, Ahmet Zappa. And at the time he had written a book, Because I'm Your Dad. He had actually done a movie for Disney, and he was actually on the lot at Disney. And so I helped him with a lot of digital marketing. So it kind of, all the stuff that I had learned in e-learning, it just so applies directly to digital marketing, because it's all about making content, and it's all about indexing metadata, and it's all about sending out messages. It's the same thing. And that's when I'm like, wow, e-learning really is social media. It's just no one's ever joined the dots together before. And that was kind of how we entered into Hollywood.
Once you entered into Hollywood, what were you able to do?
Well, the very first thing that we did, we had built a system called Screen Tweet, which was, I was just try to explain it, back in 2008, it would have been a lot harder. Now it's easy. It's Instagram. And we had a lot of people using it. I mean, thousands and thousands of people. Matter of fact, it was costing me a lot of money in actually bandwidth and storage. And that actually became an application that turned it, like, there's no way of making money at that type of thing back then. So we had to figure, how are we going to make money at this? It's easy to create an application and dump money into servers and bandwidth and stuff like that. But how do you actually monetize it? So basically we said, look, let's come up with a solution where people can actually pay on a subscription base, or whether they're a client, to be able to basically grow their digital footprint and promote their media content and be able to send it out there. And we came up with an application called BuzzTweet. And so BuzzTweet is the thing that originally I wrote a book about in 2011. When I went to LA, that book actually sits on a lot of the executives' shelves in their offices, probably even today. And it was all about frequency marketing and the ability to be able to create content and send content out at the appropriate frequency. And I don't mean about spamming people. All I mean is about making sure that you are ever present and not never present, which a lot of people, they're either one or the other. You know what I mean? You're either a major spammer or you don't say enough. And there's definitely a blend, but trying to figure out what that blend is, not only that it doesn't, get your audience upset, but engages your audience, but also adheres to all the requirements that you want from indexing content by the search engines, because you can over-index, under-index. It's all the same thing, but it becomes very technical. It's more than just a marketing thing. It becomes an actual engineering thing, as a matter of fact. And that's why I gravitated towards it, because I'm like, this is a real challenge. To me, it's kind of like, how do you solve a Rubik's Cube, right? I mean, it started to become like that, like a game, and trying to figure out how all these pieces work together. So that's how we ended up going over to Relativity Media first, which was actually just putting out the Limitless movie, and we went in and we helped them market that movie, and it did extremely well. Matter of fact, we were doing the campaign on iTunes for it, and I think Harry Potter was out at the time, and we helped Limitless movie get to #1 and move Harry Potter out of the way, and it stayed there for almost a month. After that, Ahmet goes, wow, that was interesting. Let's go over to Disney. So we went over to Disney. The first movie we did for Disney was Brave, and we helped its rankings and get it up there. After that, we did another over 50 movies for Disney. Basically, you name it, during the period of 2011 through 2018, when their chief marketing officer actually left and they flatlined everything. But prior to that, we were doing all the movies. Now I'd have to go to every business unit to try and sell them the service, and that's not a scalable business model for me. So we got something new that we're working on that's rather cool.
Well, I appreciate you for sharing that story, because I remember when we got connected and you were telling me Limitless is one of my favorite movies. And I remember you were talking about that, and I was just in awe, because I would say I was at like the middle point of my business. I had been doing it full time for a couple of years, and everyone wants to get to that next bigger level. And you were just talking about it just like you are now, just, oh yeah, and we did this and this and that, so casually. And there was a big takeaway. I don't know if you remember, it was when we came out of the restaurant after lunch and you were talking, and I said, how did you get into Disney? Do you remember what you said?
Not exactly. What did I say?
We were talking about the car dealerships in Disney, and you were talking about local businesses.
Yeah, I remember.
I would love for you to share that with Expert Authority World, because that is a huge insight, and I'll never forget it.
Well, it's basically all about it's about your contacts, for one thing, right? If you don't have the right contacts, but it literally took me the same amount of time to close Disney as what it took me to close the dealership across the street from my office. Matter of fact, Disney got it faster than what the dealership across the street got it. And even though the dealership used it for a long time, and they had a lot of success. I can just say you got to get up and you got to go places. Just because people are in another city doesn't mean you can't sell to them. Matter of fact, you can sell to them, and in many cases, they're more open to people that are not from their area than they are from the area that's right beside them. So.
I love that. And that is a huge expert authority insight. I'm going to make sure it's on the show notes on the website because I have never forgot that. And it's been years. And I want to make sure expert authority world knows that. So thank you for sharing that. As far as the marketing you've done with Disney and beyond, what were you doing for Disney? What were you doing for these movies? Because I know you were promoting movies. What were you able to do with them that not many people were doing at the time?
Well, at the time, Disney, and you're going to find this hard to believe, but Disney did not have one movie in the top 10 on iTunes. And you would think to yourself, how's that possible? Well, first of all, they weren't placing content anywhere in social media or digital or whatever for any of the automated systems to be able to get that content and produce any form of weighting factor. Because ranking systems, as you know, whether they're Google, Amazon, whatever, there's a weighting algorithm associated to them. And if you don't fulfill the needs of that algorithm, you're not going to rank. It's really that simple. And they weren't. They basically were, Disney was not creating enough content. They were not leveraging social media the way that they should. And they were not creating a digital footprint. They were doing a lot of advertising, but if I could say one thing that's really important here, advertising digitally does not create a digital footprint. Only posting and putting stuff on websites and web and social media create a digital footprint. Why? Because once you place it there, it's there. It doesn't leave. If I shut an ad, if I run a pay-per-click campaign and I shut it off, guess what? It's over. No digital footprint. A lot of money spent, no digital footprint. Not saying you shouldn't do it. I'm just saying, but if you do it by itself, you're not building anything. It's like air.
So what you're saying is think of it like a time capsule. Once it goes out there, it stays there.
Think of it like a platform. You're building a platform of content, and where you place it is your platform. So obviously it gets a lot deeper than that, but just start to resonate on that idea as digital brand as a platform.
How would you say video plays a role in this? When you're talking about movies, they're all video. When you're talking about content online, live streaming, all of this is based off of video. What kind of role would you say video plays with this?
Video has an extremely high position, but so does text and so does images. They all do. Video obviously is a lot more engaging, but that can actually deteriorate depending upon the length of the video. So the longer a video might get, you might get an audience that would say, I'm not going to spend that amount of time. With an image, it's pretty simple. People either look at it or they don't. With text, they either read it or they don't. So that's why when you're doing digital marketing, you have to have a blend of assets. It's not about one asset over another. It's about the proper digital strategy to be able to get the content into the platform at the right frequency.
What would you say is the biggest transformation you've seen from any of your clients, whether it's Disney or the dealership across the street from your office?
The one that always comes to mind that absolutely blew me away was a movie that we did. We've actually done several movies for Awesomeness TV, which was a division of DreamWorks. They had a couple of movies that we did. One was called Expelled, which was kind of like a Ferris Bueller's Day Off spinoff. And but anyways, we did that movie. That movie never went to theater, and I know the budget was less than $1 million to make this movie, and they did umpteen millions of dollars worth of downloads on iTunes. The ROI was absolutely ridiculous, and the same applied to some of the other movies that they did that we helped them do as well. Now, why? Because they had content, and they had influencing social media people. So, and some good content. So, and that's what you need. You need content, influence, digital footprint. You have to have all these aspects to be able to do that. And if you don't, and as I said, I can just say this, but it's a lot more difficult than just saying it. I mean, there's a lot to it. Matter of fact, for me to write a digital strategy for someone, it takes me, depending upon what it is, at least 2 to 3 weeks. So, and that's just to write it. That's not even to, put messages out there or do anything. That's just writing the strategy, finding out who your competitors are, what they're doing on digital, and formulating some type of combative path to be able to compete against them digitally. That's very difficult to do.
How long would you say someone should expect? You do the digital strategy, you start implementing it. What is a realistic expectation they should expect to start seeing some results for it? 30 days out, 60 days, 90, or is it 6 or 12-month game plan?
You're 6 to 12 months out for sure. I mean, when we were doing movies, we would do it was usually 3 to 6 months. And that's doing a movie that has already had some type of an organic, advertising going on. So if you're starting at like ground zero and you just put out a video and stuff like that, if you expect things to go viral that quickly, good luck. That's not how it works. Just like you're doing with all your podcasts, every single one of them that you create and that you post out there, you are creating. This is your platform. You're doing it. You're doing exactly what someone should. That's how they should do it. Build out your platform.
How has speaking helped your business?
I don't do a lot of it anymore, to be quite honest. But I mean, it did. It really
How did it help your business?
Oh, it did. I mean, you remember I used to have those kind of lunch and learns at the office, though I brought lots of people in. So it's always good to get out there. A lot of people that are techie, they don't like to talk in front of people. They'd rather sit behind a computer and write code. And I have kind of a split personality. Sometimes I'm in that kind of mode, and then other times I want to be social. So I'm lucky in that way. But yeah, I mean, just as we're wired to create, we are also wired to share what we create. And I enjoy that too. I have no problem with explaining to people, how to do things. No problem at all.
Yeah, it's one of the things I always liked about you, because we could always talk about the cameras and the tech and the behind-the-scenes stuff just as well as we could get in front of a room and share that information. One of your speeches that really stood out to me was, do you remember the SEO one?
Oh, yeah.
I love that one. That is fantastic.
And
because
go ahead, sorry.
People don't think about their business like that, let alone themselves like that.
No, and SEO has changed so much over the years. I actually tell companies, don't even really focus on it so much as what you used to do, because it's kind of like trying to hit a moving target. I mean, as soon as you think you've got it dialed in, Google comes up with another animal algorithm like panda or penguin or whatever, and you're not going to be on the first page anymore. So, as I said, you think about your content as a platform. It's your brand as a platform. And how do you build that out? And how do you strategize? And it's not just about your website. It's about everywhere. The audience that you're trying to communicate with these days is very fragmented. Your audience is all over the place. So not just going to your website. They're going everywhere. But how do you know what they are? Well, you don't. So that's why you got to put content everywhere. So
how about we give Expert Authority World some behind the scenes of the frequency we're talking about? If you were to say Twitter versus Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, how would you say they differ from one another?
It's funny. It's not just so much that the platform or those individual platforms differ, but it's also the type of content that you're sending out also differs based on the frequency. Matter of fact, I was talking to Terry Bean about this today, and I said, if you send the same type of content out like every day or whatever, I said, then that frequency might not work as well as about once a week, because people kind of like get sick of seeing the same thing. I think the bottom line is to be extremely creative with the amount of content. I don't know if you're familiar with Cheddar.
I'm familiar enough about it.
Yeah, I mean, companies like that, they understand frequency marketing in a big way, and they understand it as a platform. They produce lots of creative videos that they send out at actually fairly aggressive frequencies, but it's so interesting you don't get annoyed by it. So it's like if you entertain people, it's like you're allowed permission, to be able to send lots of content as long as you keep entertaining people. But if you start sending people ads, it's spam, and people will get sick of it and they'll shut you down pretty quick.
I like that. I know that YouTube has changed a lot, how they've changed the SEO and the tagging and the descriptions and stuff like that. And it's all about that watch time. If you can engage people, Merry Christmas. If you can't, it doesn't really matter what you do.
Exactly.
Well, it's time for the Expert Authority Roller Coaster. And you were talking about it. I know we've both been through it in our businesses. How are you feeling today? You want something controversial like did the moon landing exist, or you just want to talk about your favorite celebrity?
I'm not going to talk about the moon landing thing, no. Or dinosaurs or anything like that.
Okay, so who's your favorite celebrity?
Oh, geez. I don't know if I really have one. I can't really say that I have a favorite celebrity.
Okay, movie then.
That's a hard one too, because I
Top
do love,
three?
Yeah, I'll do that. So I love science fiction, and I'm going to say Total Recall. My wife is going to be pissed at me because she cannot stand this movie because there's a whole backstory behind it. But I always liked that, not because it was a great movie, because it wasn't. It's just the premise of, the whole in the mind thing, like, that type of thing. I thought that was very interesting. So, but lately I've been kind of getting off movies and I'm watching a lot more series. Obviously, I like Stranger Things. I think Stranger Things is a great series. I mean, very, very creative, awesome actors and actresses. I think it's an amazing show. I like the new Lost in Space, believe it or not. I didn't at first because it obviously is different than the original, and I love like the whole old Irwin Allen sci-fis and the guys over in England that did all the UFO and Captain Scarlet and all the puppets and that type of thing. I love all of that type of stuff. So when the new things come along, you're always like, do you really want to replace this new with the old? But when I watch the series, I'm like, yeah, I really do like it. They did a good job of it. So,
well, that's excellent. And I wanted to ask you, we're going to talk about it more at the end, but is that the inspiration behind some of your books?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, Irwin Allen, when I was a kid living in England, and I lived in England until I was 10, I watched a lot of American television. So Lost in Space was a big one. Land of the Giants. What was the other? Banana Split show. I mean, there's a lot of really cool American shows back then. So I really loved America. I mean, just, by watching the creativity that was coming out of that and being, having that creative mindset back then. So when I moved to Canada and we moved very close to the Detroit border, I was constantly always going over to Detroit, seeing concerts and stuff like that. And I thought, you know what, someday I'm going to move over here. And by fortune, we were able to do that with the company that I was working for. So it's just interesting how your life can take those paths, when you look back. But yeah, definitely. Jerry the name I was trying to remember from England that did UFO, and that is Jerry and Sylvia Anderson. They were absolutely brilliant. They did like Thunderbirds, Captain Scarlet, all those little puppets. And I used to get fascinated by the intricacies of the detail that went into making all those things and how they had to film it. It must have been painstaking. But yeah, a lot of that stuff, it definitely inspired me over the years to really like the media side and not just inventing tech and stuff like that. And recently I have been getting more into, actually making media and helping other writers turn things into movies.
Excellent. Well, I appreciate the further detail. We're going to thank our sponsor and come back for the imperfect action round.
Why every business needs a book, including yours. Would you like to save 5+ hours with every prospect, generate more leads, and profit in your business now? Visit businessbookchecklist.com and learn how you can implement this in your business today.
And we are back with the imperfect action round. Steve, are you ready to take imperfect action?
I guess. I don't know what that means, but yeah, sure.
Oh, I'm sure you've done it in your business just once or twice. So the first question I have for you is, what is the fastest path to the cash?
Steal it. No, there's no easy way, but what I would say the best way, as far as the best way to cash, is to do what you are best at. A lot of people don't do what they're best at. And then what happens is the value of what they're offering really isn't that high. And then they have no profit margins. So when you choose something and you choose to do something, make sure that you really love what you're doing, you're passionate about it, and you're good at it. What you're best at. And whatever you're best at, you will be able to charge the most for. So that's the simplest answer that I think.
I like it, and I agree 100%. Number 2. What is the biggest problem you see your prospects making and the fastest way they can fix it?
I kind of already mentioned it. And if we stick on the path of digital, it's that people don't understand how to build this digital platform in today's world. People are still like trying to figure it out. It's like, what do I do? How do I build? What type of content should it be? What should I say? All of that stuff. People haven't figured it out yet. And I think the main reason is because people don't want to take the time and effort to build a strategy. If I'm going to build a car or a house, what do I need? I need a blueprint. Well, why would this be any different? Matter of fact, it's even as complex, in some cases, more complex than that. So I should build a blueprint and a plan on whatever my digital strategy is. It's not just about hiring a couple social media people and figuring out how to, optimize SEO on a couple of pages. It's not about that anymore. It's way, way beyond that. And content marketing and frequency marketing have completely changed that. So, and the best way to fix that, give me a call. I can help you do that.
All right, number 3, what is the best way to maximize customer lifetime value?
That's easy. Take care of your customers. Support them. And also, one of the things that I've been doing over the years, I actually don't go out to try and sell anything anymore. I go out to try and make friendships and relationships with people and find people that I would like to work with, not people that I would like to make money from. And that's a big difference to a bunch of things. First of all, you're going to be more successful because you're going to enjoy working with those people. You could even, in some cases, which I've got vested into those companies, and I own parts of those companies in some cases by helping them. And it becomes a win-win situation for everyone. So I guess it's just really adjusting your mindset on how you are going after sales instead of just going after money. Go after relationships and friendships and build a portfolio of that instead of just sales.
I love that answer. It's about adding the value, not seeing what you can take from them.
Yeah, exactly.
What is a book you could recommend? What is the best book you could recommend?
The best book right now? Oh, I want to recommend my friends. So I'd recommend this book if for young adults. It's, let me get in the right frame here. It's called Excerpts of an Unknown Guidebook. Joseph Bastian, you can see his name down at the bottom here. I helped him publish the very first book back last August. He has written 13 of these, and they have not been published yet. This series is like Narnia meets Harry Potter, but in an American style. And so I took him to Hollywood, been working with Amet. The group is called the Folk Tellers, and Amet came a folk teller. Just as I was telling the last question, I became invested in this and a folk teller. It's just excellent storytelling. I mean, and I've always, like I said, talking before, I always loved, fantasy sci-fi, and that falls right into this genre. And I love helping kids with literacy too. So we've done a few tests over at Royal Oak Schools with this book, and it's been received extremely well. And yeah, so now we're trying to get it out there. We actually just signed a deal with Reading is Fundamental, and so they are actually helping us. And you've probably heard of RIF, Reading is Fundamental, and so that starts in September. And we're going to have a new publisher. I can't say who it is right now, but it's a big name. And so we're pretty excited about that. So this is a great read. It was on Amazon. We sold out multiple times, and I don't even know if it's available right at this moment. But in September, once the big publisher hits, this is going to go all over the place. So just remember this. This is like the next Harry Potter. So
that is very exciting. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Where can people learn more about you and your companies?
We have multiple. I have so many different websites that I send people to. But the nice thing about being a digital guy, if you just type my name in, Stephen with a PH, STEPHEN SADLAR, I'm going to come up all over the place, because it's like I'm a brand as a platform, as I've been saying through the whole interview, right? And it's the same with your products too. People have got to be able to find you, and they should be able to find you across all these different platforms, whether it's LinkedIn, Twitter, Pinterest, Tumblr, Facebook, Snapchat, you name it. You got to be all over the place. So we do have a website for this particular book, which is called folktellers.com. So you can watch the videos, and also on YouTube, they have their own channel and stuff like that. Very cool stuff. I've written my own sci-fi book. I started writing a few years ago because I was bored when I was on the planes going back and forth to Los Angeles. And I actually wrote Mindset, so which is a science fiction book. And that's the name of the website, mindsetabaddon.com. So yeah, I really enjoy doing that. I really didn't start writing for myself to try and make any money. It was more of a release of creativity. And as I said, I was tired of all the movies being the same on the plane, that I started writing. But now I'm starting to love it. I'm actually writing a lot more and more all the time. So
I know the feeling. I failed English 7 times, and after doing my first book, I was like, this isn't so hard. Maybe I just didn't have an interest in it. And then you do the second one and third one, and it gets easier. And now we're writers, I guess.
Well, I'll tell you a funny story. When I first met Zappa, he had written his first book, and we were actually sitting in front of Disney Hyperion, which was his publisher at the time. And Ahmet started explaining that he had problems reading when he was in school. And so I said, really? I said, in what regard? Well, it turns out that both of us are dyslexic, and both of us have written books. And it was so interesting, because while we're sitting in the meeting with Disney, we actually started talking about that, and we forgot the other people were even in the room. So if I can leave you on one note, sometimes it's your deficiencies in life that make you the best that you can be. It sometimes isn't the strengths at all.
That is a huge expert authority insight. I'm going to make sure that is on the show notes as a key takeaway, and that is a great note to end it on. I thank you so much for sharing with Expert Authority World. As always, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah, it's a pleasure, Mario. Thank you.
All right, Expert Authority World, we got another great episode here. I'll see you on tomorrow's. Have a great day, and God bless.
Why every business needs a book, including yours. Would you like to save 5+ hours with every prospect, generate more leads and profit in your business now? Visit businessbookchecklist.com and learn how you can implement this in your business today. Hey, thanks for listening to today's episode. I hope you got a lot out of it. I know I sure did. If you haven't done so already, I invite you to subscribe to the show, and also be sure to check out eainterviews.com for complete show notes, the full interview video experience, links to the resources we mentioned, and more. Have a blessed day, and I'll see you tomorrow.